And I hope that the holy month of Ramadan will be bringing about peace, welfare, and prosperity for the whole world as well as ours. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, unfortunately, for the past 2 years, we have had not the chance uh, to organize such events, but with the relaxation of the conditions, we have had this chance to come together with you again, and I'm very pleased for it. And in your person, I would like to extend my condolences to all those who lost their beloved because of the coronavirus pandemic. The coronavirus pandemic, which has brought about a major blow on the whole world over the past 2 years, has reminded once again virtues such as living in peace, coexisting peacefully, and in serenity. However, despite a lot of welfare and development, we as well have observed that we have had a lot of shortcomings. Neither the international organizations nor economically developed countries could perform well in the face of the pandemic. This pandemic, which was supposed to mobilize our feelings of sympathizing, unfortunately, it further deepened the dividend in between communities and nations. And vaccines were also perceived as a privilege for and designated for the wealthy, and this also shows how dramatic this situation is. However, as Turkey, we offered number one and high quality vaccination services to our citizens and contributed a lot and helped to our brothers and sisters across the world and put it to public use. Over the past 2 years, we have supplied medical assistance, medical product assistance to um, more than 120 countries and to more than 12 international organizations, and we have donated millions of doses of vaccines to more than 19 countries. At the third Turkey Africa summit, which was organized in Istanbul, we have made a pledge to make a donation of 15 million doses of vaccine to Africa. And since March 20th, Turcovac, our locally developed vaccine included, we have granted totally more than 4.7 million doses of vaccine. Our donations of vaccines and as well medical supplies will continue. And I pray to God so that He does not make us encounter such a similar crisis again. Related with the consequences of the pandemic, we also hope that this predicament will be a cause for us to make self evaluations. We are all human beings before we are Asian, European, African, or American, no matter where we live, no matter what our colors are, or our languages, our religions are. We are all members of a big human family of 8 billion people. As the members of this great family, we do not have responsibilities only for one another, however, also our next generations. Nobody has the right to go to their ivory towers only and neglect the calamities or the crises that others endure. Related with the globalization, our responsibility for one another becomes bigger and bigger. even though we try to forget or neglect, every incident that unfolds reminds us that the whole humanity is on board on the same ship. From conflicts to economic crises, from pandemics to economical and environmental crises, we witness those realities altogether. As Turkey, under the light of these realities, we have been exerting efforts to play constructive roles in crises and shoulder our responsibilities. What happened in the Ukrainian crisis also shows that Turkey has an entrepreneurship-oriented foreign politics that takes the humans and human dignity and values to its core. To end the conflicts that took place in between both of our neighbors, we have exerted a very intensive work of diplomacy with the participation of the foreign ministers of Ukraine and Russia, as well as our own. We organized meetings, and following that, in order to ensure that the negotiations continue in between the parties face to face, we organized events in Istanbul, and thanks to these negotiations, the parties covered positive mileage. However, the image, the footage coming from Dusha and other cities, and the fact that civilians were targeted in Kramatorsk did overshadow our work. However, despite all these unpleasant developments, online meetings in between the parties are ongoing. As a country that both sides trust, we continue with our efforts. The Istanbul process and as well many efforts to overcome this crisis continue to be the most potent and effective exit. And we also heard that from many leaders with whom we're in direct contact. Besides, both sides also note that they are willing to continue with the process and negotiations in Istanbul. With Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky, I have regular phone calls. I share my expectations and what I think directly with them, and I share them very frankly. I have a wish to bring both leaders together in Turkey, and I bring that to their attention in every chance. There will be no winner in this war, and everyone, the whole humanity will lose, I share. The longer the conflicts take place, the more prolonged it is. The world is carried into a big ambiguity. With the impact of the war, in particular in the Balkans, ethical and cultural fault lines come back live. The pain, suffering, destruction, and tears cannot continue any longer, and we cannot stand as mere bystanders. In our culture, it is believed that the pain is to be immediately overcome. Firstly, a ceasefire and a lasting peace in between the both parties will be one of the most benevolent actions for the whole humanity. On the basis of protecting the territorial integrity and also the sovereignty of Ukraine, through dialogue, I firmly believe that a peaceful solution can be found. The talks in Istanbul we will continue with our work to make sure that the talks in Istanbul bear outcomes on which all parties will be in terms. This also shows how much to the point that our actions and arguments are. We said the world is bigger than five, and at the United Nations Security Council, we indeed made a call for for it, and the importance of that has been now understood. A system which was established at the post-Second World War can no longer be a taboo, and the fact that it is now seen by everyone as a wrongdoing. Rather, a system which will be producing solutions for the problems of our current day and also the needs of the future. A new system is to be re-established on the grounds of fairness and justice. Turkey, for more than 70 years in NATO, has shown the necessary solidarity and has repeatedly proven that it is an indispensable ally. In contrast to shallow evaluations and groundless claims or accusations, the most recent developments have once again clearly showed the importance of NATO both within and outside it. Membership to the EU will continue to be Turkey's strategic goal. The war in Ukraine has come to bear impacts in the global scale, and we have been observing that in many fields, such as energy primarily, and these all once again showed how important Turkey's position is. Without surrendering to the vicious interests of the Union or some members, we expect the EU to take concrete and meaningful steps ahead. Of course, while the Ukrainian conflict is ongoing, we cannot turn a blind eye to the tragedies ongoing in the rest of the world. Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Palestine, and in many parts of the world, millions of people in the world now observe another Ramadan month bitterly. The fact that the international community has been losing its capacity is now paid by civilians, children, and women in those lands. Just because precautions are not taken or they are not reached out to, every innocent person who dies is equal to the death of humanity. What is making us really grounded, all values are disappearing. Turkey has been hosting temporarily more than 10 million people who have been displaced, around 5 of whom are refugees. And we have been exerting all the efforts we can to ensure that safe and secure repatriation of our Syrian brothers and sisters is ensured. At the same time, right beyond our southern borders, under the threats and attacks of the terrorist groups and bombardments of the regime, the downtrodden and oppressed are always owned up to, and we stand with them. And this to ensure that the north of Iraq is eradicated from terrorism, we never refrain from taking steps ahead, starting primarily with FETÖ, PKK, Daesh, or YPG. No matter where they come from or their sources or where they are, we continue fighting against terrorism in all means. And we do put up this struggle, and we will do so as determinedly until this matter no longer is a threat for the region and for our country. In particular, those who do provide finance to terror groups. We expect the strong support of all of our friends, I would like to reiterate here. Similarly, terrorists and neo-Nazi groups should be prevented from their abuse of democratic systems. In particular, Islamophobic and xenophobic groups should not be allowed to use certain other means as means or instruments of attack to the Muslims or other communities or cultures in the world. We have, for example, most recently observed what has taken place in Al-Aqsa, and we will. And continue to see some similar images. However, we do not want to experience such things. And I talked to the president about all these during. Talked to Prime Minister about all these in his visit to Ankara. Esteemed ambassadors, around us to create an environment of peace and serenity, we support all steps of reconciliation. We attach importance and priority to the stability in the Black Sea and the Eastern Mediterranean, and we have been exerting efforts to make sure that an immediate and a sound and concrete solution is found. We have obtained a very important opportunity for peace in our region. In order not to waste this opportunity with our neighbor Armenia, we continue very sincerely with our processes of normalization. With the Balkans, with which we have historical, humanitarian, and cultural ties to prevent new escalations of tensions and to ensure stability, we have been exerting efforts, starting with Israel and United Arab Emirates. With many Middle Eastern countries, we are determined to preserve the momentum we have achieved. The bleeding wound of the Ummah, the Palestine cause, we're determined to stand for it, and we will continue to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters with all our means at hand. Our first Qibla is Al-Aqsa, and about the sacred Jerusalem, Qudus, we are standing our ground, and our attitude is known by the whole world. Yesterday, with the President of Palestine, Mr. Abbas, and also with the Secretary General of the UN, Mr. Guterres, I had phone calls, and I stated that we condemn all attacks against the holy, sacred worship places, and we never do accept such attacks on people. To ensure that the tension is not escalated and painful events no longer unfold, we would take our share, I said, and the strategic mechanism with the U.S. has become functional, and we're happy about that. Within the framework of our Asia a new initiative as a country that is in the very west of the continent. We continue with our relations with the whole continent, and our expansion policies with Africa and Asia continue with 213 foreign missions across the world. We are exerting efforts to construct new bridges with the whole world. And the fact that the number of the foreign missions located in Turkey has come to 293 shows that our actions are mutual and returned, and on the basis of win-win, we will continue with this direction. I would like to underline one fact: for a fairer, a more livable and peaceful world, we only can achieve on the basis of mutual understanding and solidarity. So for that end, rather than our differences, we shall concentrate on our common points and make sure that we look for ways to further improve peace and coexistence. Populism, racism, separatism, or discrimination among religions, languages, or ethnicities should be completely left aside, and altogether we must make sure that justice prevails, and it is the loudest. If we can achieve all these, everything will be on track. yet again, I believe. And fight against Islamophobia International Day has been announced, and I would like to thank to each and every friend who has contributed to this initiative within the framework of the UN. I would like to thank to you all very much for having attended to our iftar dinner, and I hope that this holy month of Ramadan will be beneficial for all the humanity and all the oppressed and downtrodden in the world. I would like to thank to each and every one of you wholeheartedly, and I would kindly ask you to take my greetings when you go back to your homes. I would like to respectfully again greet each and every one of you. I would like to say thank you all very much. Stay in health.
Böylelikle Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ın ev sahipliğinde gerçekleşen geleneksel iftar yemeğimizin de sonuna geleceğiz birazdan. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz.